This is Eugene Panrikevich. I'm the laptop screen doc, and the name of the website is www.screensurgeons.com. Today we have an ASUS UL30A laptop computer with a cracked screen, and we're going to show you how to replace it. Before we do anything, we want to make the laptop safe to work on, and we need to remove the battery. We flip the laptop over and we slide the two levers outward and we slide the battery out, and now we can work on it safely. Okay, while we're still at the bottom of the laptop, we want to show you where we can find the model number, and it's right above the Windows sticker, and right on top it says Model UL30A right up here, the top line. So that's where you find the model number for the ASUS. Okay, let's flip this thing over. And just like with any laptop, before we get to the screen, we have to remove the screen bezel, the plastic frame around the screen. And in order to do that, we have to remove the screws that are securing the bezel. And these screws are covered by some rubber covers on top and some plastic covers on the bottom. So we have to get to those first. So before we start, I'll show you the tools we're going to use. X-Acto knife with a pointed blade to remove the plastic and rubber covers. An electronics screwdriver with a PH1 bit. PH stands for Phillips and 1 is the size. Just in case, we also have a smaller PH0 bit. I don't know if we'll need to use that or not. And then we have a pair of metal tweezers to remove screws that are stuck. Okay, so the first order of business is to remove the plastic covers that are covering up the screws. There's 6 in total. We're going to remove them each one by one. And what I like to do is put the covers right next to the screws so we don't lose them. Okay, that's 5. And that's 6. Alright, next we're going to remove the screws that are securing the screen bezel. And we start one by one. And for each set of screws, I like to keep them in a separate pile, so when you're putting the laptop back together, you'll know which screws go where. And I like to put the piles in time order, or the order which they're removed, so you can keep track of it better. Okay, and we'll remove the bottom screws. Okay, note that the bottom screws are a little bit longer than the top screws, so you have to keep those in a separate pile. Okay, once we do that, we remove the screen bezel, and what I like to do is put my fingertips on the screen side, and using my fingernails in this case, gently start lifting up the screen bezel and listen for a snapping sound. Once you hear a snapping sound, that's a good sign. And this one's a little bit tougher because it's hard to reach underneath, but we can do it. Alright, so if you get stuck on a spot, just move on to the next spot and come back to it. Alright, so almost done. And go on the bottom and slowly start snapping off the bottom. We're almost done. And it's a little bit stubborn around the corners, but we can do it. It's not stubborn around the corners. That's okay. We just have to be patient. Okay, what I did on the corners is instead of going from the screen side, I go from the outside, put my fingers in the seam on the outside, and it comes off. So you just have to experiment a little bit with each screen, and sooner or later you'll get it. Just take your time on it. Alright, let's take a look at the front of the screen. This type of screen, it's mounted by front tabs instead of a more common type of screen where you put the screws on the side of the screen to mount it. And the way it's mounted, it's a little bit unusual. There's no screws in the screw holes. Usually we see 3 screw holes on each side. Usually we see screws going through there, but it's just flush mounted in there, and I assume it has adhesive. So that makes things easier for us, and what we do is start to gently pull the screen forward, see if anything is stopping us, and nothing is stopping us, and we can remove forward the screen like this. So that was really simple and simpler than most laptops. Okay, once we do that, there is one connector on the bottom. It's a connector for LED screen, pretty common, and we just have to remove that one connector to remove the screen. There's some adhesive tape on top that will fit up. Once I do that, I just slide the connector out and the screen is free. Okay, before we go any further, I'm going to show you how to put the connector back in, because that's the biggest source of errors I see when people do it at home. You slide the connector back in, and there's 2 things you need to look for. First is when you slide it in, you'll feel but not hear 2 clicks on there. That's when the connector is properly engaged. And then let's take a look what the connector looks like when it's properly connected. If we get a good focus. Sometimes the camera cooperates with me, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so I think that's as good as I'm going to get this time. Okay, pause the video right there and make sure that between the 2 connectors, there's no gap in the seam between the 2 connectors. It's fully engaged, and that's when you have a proper connection. Alright, let's keep moving along. Let's disconnect it again. And let's take a look at this screen. It's a 13.3-inch LED screen with a connector on the bottom right. Fairly standard, nothing unusual here. Let's take a look at the part number. The part number is B133XW01. That's the part you need to look for when you do your search. B133XW01. Now the screen that you will receive most likely will not have the same part number, but it will look nearly identical because there's 5 or 6 companies that make the exact same screen. Okay, we as screen surgeons also sell this screen, and what you get with us is free email technical support to help you with installation, and also we have a compatibility guarantee. If the screen we ship to you is not compatible, then we will send you the right one at no extra cost. Okay, to order a screen from us, go to screensurgeons.com, click on Buy a Screen, and on that there will be a short form for you to fill out with the email address and the laptop model, and we'll reply with an email and a link to buy the right screen. Okay, that's it. Once you do have the right screen connected as I showed you, just put it back on. Make sure it fits tight and flush. You don't need to put any screws on. Snap the screen bezel back on and put 6 screws on, and you're done. And this is a fairly easy one to do yourself. Once again, my name is Eugene Penrukevich. I'm the laptop screen doc, and the name of the website is www.screensurgeons.com. Thank you very much, and good luck.